Hello and welcome to the Network Professor, a series of podcasts hosted by me, Glyn Jones, Product Manager at Hughes Europe. Hello and welcome to the next in the series of podcasts in brief, brought to you by me, Glyn Jones, Product Manager at Hughes Europe. I was about to start this podcast with a comment that if you haven't heard of Starlink, then you must have been living on an uninhabited island in the middle of the ocean for the past few years. But then thought that because of the likes of Starlink, even if you were in the remotest place in the world, because of Starlink's omnipresent service, you would have heard of them. In today's world, connectivity isn't just a convenience anymore, it's a lifeline for you and your business. Whether you're a startup hustling to make your mark or a seasoned multi-site enterprise navigating the winds of change, the ability to access broadband and log on to your applications from anywhere can make all the difference. This is where low Earth orbit satellite services from the likes of OneWeb and Starlink, and soon to be from Amazon, really make their play, providing that connectivity to bring the world closer to you, wherever you may be. Though, in reality, what the likes of OneWeb are doing in the enterprise sector and Starlink are doing in the consumer market is nothing new. Satcoms, or satellite communications to give it its full name, has been around for many years. To give you an idea how long, well, here at Hughes we invented VSAT over 50 years ago. But in reality, the concept or ideas behind Satcoms date back even further, with a Russian theorist back in the early 1900s describing the concept of fixed orbit, where a device in the sky would appear stationary over a fixed point on Earth. This was followed up in 1945 with a paper, Extraterrestrial Relay, Can Rocket Stations Give Worldwide Radio Coverage, which was written by Arthur C. Clarke. It's just well worth a read if you have a spare 30 minutes and can find a copy of it online. So, how have things changed in the years from the original concepts to where we are today? Basically, the fundamentals are the same. A device, the UT or user terminal, on Earth sends a signal, whether that is voice or data, up to a satellite in space, and then the satellite in space amplifies and relays that signal back to somewhere else on Earth, the ground station, which then onward transmits it to its local destination. What is different is how the different systems operate. What I'll dub traditional satellite is what we term GEO, or Geostationary Earth Orbit, whereas the new generation satellite is what we term LEO, Low Earth Orbit. Two very similar TLAs, three-letter acronyms, but two different approaches to achieve the same aim, providing connectivity between point A and point B. LEO stands for Low Earth Orbit, meaning that LEO satellites orbit the Earth at an altitude typically less than 1,200 kilometers, sometimes as low as 160 kilometers. This distance may seem a long way, but not when you compare it to the likes of GEO satellites, which orbit at an altitude of 35,786 kilometers. If we look back at the original concept from over 100 years ago, back to when even the act of human beings flying was an alien concept to most people, it was calculated that a device sitting at an orbit of approximately 36,000 kilometers will appear stationary for a point on Earth, because its rotational speed in orbit mirrors the rotational speed of the Earth. What this meant for Satcoms is that a single satellite will be able to cover a large proportion of the Earth. Arthur C. Clarke predicted 3 would be sufficient to allow transmission anywhere on Earth. In reality, it's a few more than 3, but it's still a relatively small number. And this is what is known as geostationary orbit. The issue with GEO satellites is one of physics. The radio waves between the Earth and the satellite and back to the Earth have to travel a very long way, which takes time, typically about 700 milliseconds, which most people might say isn't long, it's less than 1 second. When you consider that a fibre circuit has a typical latency figure of sub 10 milliseconds, then sending data via satellite takes 70 times longer. For a lot of things we do in our daily life, the increased latency would not impact us. Does it make any difference if your email reply takes 10 milliseconds to be sent or 1,000 milliseconds? No, you wouldn't notice. Some things we do are time sensitive though. Real-time remote control, financial trading, interactive gaming, to name a few, where the difference between 10 milliseconds and 1,000 milliseconds may be critical. So how do we overcome the issues of latency? Well, unless you know how to define the laws of physics, then the only way to reduce latency is to reduce the distance. Though, if you do happen to know how to defy the laws of physics, please let me know, as I'm sure we can come up with some interesting ways to use it. Anyway, back to satellite technology. To reduce latency, we have to bring the satellite into a closer orbit. This means that rather than sitting over a single point on the Earth, the rotational speed of the satellite now means that it is continually moving over the Earth's surface. In other words, it never stays in the same place. What this does mean is that rather than having a single satellite covering a fixed area, you now need multiple satellites in a constellation to provide that always-on connectivity. This is LEO, Low Earth Orbit technology. The outcome of moving to a LEO setup is that the number of satellites needed to get global coverage has now grown considerably, with figures from multiple hundreds up to multiple thousands depending on the service provider. So we have our LEO constellation with a very large number of satellites orbiting the Earth, whereas with GEO satellites your user terminal will always point to a fixed point in the sky that doesn't change. With LEO satellites you now need to track these satellites as they go overhead, and switch between satellites as the first satellite goes out of range and the next one comes into range. This switch over in the ideal world should be seamless, or at least as quick as possible. This increases the complexity of the antenna. With GEO satellites we just have a fixed dish similar to the satellite TV dishes you see on the side of many houses. With LEO satellites it now must move to follow the satellites through the sky. This was originally done by mechanical means with motors and gears driving the antenna in an arc, but has now started to be replaced by electronically steered antenna technology, where the antenna is now fixed and the tracking of the satellite is now done with some very clever internal electronics. What this does mean is that with the increasing complexity of the technology, we also see an increase in the cost of the service compared with GEO services. So whilst LEO satellite services are the new kid on the block, GEO satellite services still very much have a place, and in fact many major satellite operators are looking at how they can provide hybrid solutions utilising both LEO and GEO in one system, taking advantage of the low latency of LEO for interactive traffic and the lower cost data plans of GEO for bulk traffic. At the end of the day, every business needs low latency, high speed connectivity to succeed in our world today. It's a game changer in communications and is vital if you operate over multiple sites. The benefits of satellite communications, whether they be LEO or GEO, means bringing this level of connection to unconnected communities is achievable and will help bridge the digital divide and support activities in these areas. When we announced our partnership with the LEO satellite communications company OneWeb, the aim was to offer this level of service. The OneWeb network offers all the benefits of LEO satellite and more. As it's designed specifically for enterprises, you don't have to share the network with consumer traffic and can be assured of optimum levels of security for your activities. The customer experience is superior to, applications are plug and play, and speeds are more predictable than 4G and LTE cellular services. Once satellite connection was an option reserved for government and military operations. Now its benefits can be enjoyed by all businesses, large or small. Hughes has a wide range of service plans, making LEO satellite networks an accessible choice no matter your needs. The next podcast, What is SASE and Does it Matter for Enterprise Networks, will be out next Thursday. Do subscribe or follow me on your podcast platform of choice to be notified when it comes out. Thank you for listening and do enjoy the rest of your day.